Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time on a Monday night. Hope everybody's had a great start to their week. Quarterbacks in this coming NFL draft. We know that they've been the talk of the offseason, but have we been talking about it the wrong way this entire time? The AFC South, the four teams in this division have the potential to make an absolute mess of everything we've been talking about for the past 3 months. And it's going to be fascinating to see how these things pan out. You're going to hear from Adam Schefter on a scenario that sees a much different order of things when the NFL draft and particularly the quarterbacks are concerned here in just a little bit. We'll talk about the Rand Carthon wish list, now where your attentions turn at this point in the roster construction. And then producer Robert will join us for an exceptional segment in case you missed it this week. We'll get to that at the end of tonight's show. Before we get started, need you guys to share this thing around, whether you're on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or Twitch. If you're hanging out on Twitter, please retweet the show. That's in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. If you're on Facebook Live, you can share now to public, like Michael Webb or Trevor Thomas, who met the GOAT, Mike Keith, today. Share now to public in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. If you're on YouTube or Twitch, like James Strickland or Nathaniel Allison, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Do both. If you've already done both, tell a friend to do the same. We'd be grateful for you that way. And once you've shared the show around, we can talk about the way that the AFC South can turn this draft on its head. Let's do so. With that being said, welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time from the Superbook Sports Studios. I'm your host, Buck Rising, and I'm proud, as always, to be presented to you by the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage. GaryAshton.com, the intel edge you need to succeed with the official real estate agent of the Nashville Predators, GaryAshton.com. Superbook Sports, download the app today. You can bet on the NBA playoffs going on right now, the NHL, which started this evening, everything in between. Superbook.com for terms and conditions. And True Math Fitness in the Gulch, a new way to work out a better version of you. Get your fitness goals accomplished today with the best workout routine in Middle Tennessee. TrueMathFitness.com for your first workout free. So the AFC South has such a massive role to play in this upcoming NFL draft. The Houston Texans at 2, the Indianapolis Colts at 4, the Tennessee Titans at 11, and the Jacksonville Jaguars in the mid-20s being the only team, or being the team that made the playoffs from that division this year. There is an opportunity for the AFC South to have some of the best quarterback prospects from the last 3 drafts in the division for all 3 of the other teams not named Tennessee. But there's a scenario that Adam Schefter laid out today on NFL Live that makes it seem like the way we've been talking about this particular draft order is not necessarily correct, and certainly not the way that these teams have been thinking about this. I think that the circumstances for the Texans and the Colts have just become so much more interesting because of this Adam Schefter report, and we're going to let you hear from him in just a second. I want to start with your Two Rivers Ford take, though, on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. In the comments section, let me know how you feel about this draft order, and in particular, the Texans and the Colts, with the question, what should the Texans do with the 2nd overall pick in this year's draft? Let me know how you feel about it. I know most of you guys are Titans fans. There's an odd Texans fan, a rare Jags fan running around in the comment section. But if you were the Houston Texans, what would you want them to do with the 2nd overall pick? Not as a Titans fan, but if you were running that organization. We're going to discuss it together. It's your Two Rivers Ford take. As always, it's made possible by Two Rivers Ford. Since 1983, Two Rivers Ford has been providing quality American-made Ford vehicles, award-winning customer service, a name you know, and a brand you can trust. Their sales staff does not work on commission, which means their only goal is to find you the perfect vehicle for your family's budget and your needs. Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet or online at tworiversford.com. So it almost seems like gospel that CJ Stroud, who was talked about as the number one overall pick in this draft for several weeks, now it sounds like it's Bryce Young. The tables or the tide has shifted in the direction of Bryce Young with the first overall pick to the Carolina Panthers. And that kind of leaves the rest of this thing still possible to fall in the order that we've talked about. We've talked about the Houston Texans needing a quarterback. We've talked about the Indianapolis Colts at 4 needing a quarterback. We've talked about teams like the Seahawks at 5 or the Raiders at 7 who could use a quarterback situation for the future, even if they have a stopgap situation like Geno or Jimmy G on their roster right now. But what Adam Schefter posed to the cast of NFL Live today was that we have been talking about this, maybe not in the right way. We have been talking about this as definitively quarterbacks are going 1 and 2, and all of a sudden, that doesn't seem like such a certainty.
Well, listen, we think that Anthony Richardson is a fascinating prospect, but so is this entire prospect. Dan, you mentioned the run on quarterbacks, but let me ask everybody this. What if the run on quarterbacks gets a little bit delayed? What if it's a little bit later to start than people thought? We've been hearing about quarterbacks going 1, 2, 3, 4. That's not going to happen, I don't believe, in this draft. And what would happen if and when we've seen Carolina make the move up right away for a quarterback at 1, but we haven't seen anybody trade up to 2 when Houston's open to listening. We haven't seen anybody trade up to number 3 because you know what? I think Indianapolis thinks there's a real chance right now that they could sit right where they are at 4 and get potentially the second quarterback in this draft. There's a chance we might not see a quarterback go at 2 or even 3, and there might not be a team that trades up because the value in that isn't what we thought it would be. So Indianapolis may be sitting there with its pick in the litter, Anthony Richardson or Will Levis or CJ Stroud. That could happen. That's a possibility right now.
I'll bet you $10.
Stroud might be there
at
at
4.
A
very nice steakhouse that two quarterbacks go in the first 4 picks. There's no question about it. I bet you $10. This is what I'll say.
Hold on, Dan. What kind of odds? What kind of odds you give me on there? Because that's obvious. Everybody's expecting that, right?
I'll give you 10 to 1 odds, Shefty.
Done.
10 to 1. 10 to 1.
10 to 1 on $10.
Here's my thing. Here's my.
These teams right now seem willing to wait. They seem willing to wait, and I don't think we're going to see a quarterback go at 2. And I think all the teams that were talking about trading up to 3 know that, and so they could sit back and wait. And so this great quarterback rush that we've all been expecting might start a little bit later than we all thought. I'm just telling you.
Adam Schefter's not just telling you, he's screaming at you. He's saying, listen to me, you idiots, Dan Orlovsky. A quarterback is not going to. I don't know why Adam Schefter is so passionate about this. Maybe it's because Dan Orlovsky would dare to question the great Adam Schefter's information, but he's very passionate about this. And I don't take many things as gospel, especially this time of year. But it is difficult for me to look at an information person like Adam Schefter being willing to stand on the table that passionately on national television and tell you almost definitively that a quarterback is not going to go 2. It's enough for me to at least pay attention. So if the Houston Texans don't draft what we presume would be CJ Stroud with the second overall pick, then what is possible for the Colts at 4, like Schefter mentioned? Even the Titans at 11, in a situation where we have been operating almost exclusively under the idea that the 2 quarterbacks who we all consider to be the 2 best quarterbacks in this year's draft class will come off the board at 1 and 2. And there has been messaging around the Texans not taking a quarterback with that second pick for a couple of weeks now. Greg Cosell brought this up to me for the first time. I can't remember if we were at the Combine or if it was right after the Combine when we were doing the podcast. Greg said to me definitively, I've been hearing a lot that the Texans just aren't necessarily sold on taking a quarterback at 2. And it's not like I discounted what Greg said at the time. I took it into consideration. But then as we moved on and you saw the way that free agency went and you saw what the Houston Texans quarterback room looked like, you said, well, it would be, you say to yourself, well, it would be utterly ridiculous for a team like Houston that is getting ready to field a quarterback room of Davis Mills and Taylor Heineke. It would be foolish for them to not take the best possible quarterback solution with that second overall pick, even as they have a second first-round pick. They have 12 overall immediately after the Titans selected 11. Let's talk about this in terms of who Houston might select here in just a second, right after I remind you that the Primetime Show is presented by True Math Fitness in the Gulch. Get the best version of you. Get your workout started, your workout routine. Make it a part of your day-to-day, because once you go to True Math Fitness for the first time, I promise you, you are going to enjoy it and make it a part of your regular workout routine. True Math Fitness, their workout classes, their boot camp style, 40 minutes, efficient, effective. They push you without overexerting you, and their coaching staff is incredibly helpful, friendly, and fun to work with as you go through their group classes, whether you're somebody who prefers personal training or just wants to work out in their open gym. TrueMathFitness.com for your first workout free and to find out all of their great membership options today. Case Keenum is in Atlanta. Okay. Case Keenum is in Houston. Heineke is in Atlanta. Okay. Thank you, producer Robert, for clarifying that. Yes, that's Case Keenum's second tour of duty in Houston. Is that right? I don't know why I had convinced myself that Taylor Heineke was a Texan, but that's right. He plays for Arthur Smith this coming year. Anyway, so second tour of duty for Case Keenum in Houston, Bert. Is that what you were giving me the thumbs up on? Third tour of duty for Case Keenum with the Houston Texans. How about that at this point? That's pretty funny to think about. So Case Keenum and Davis Mills should not preclude the Texans from taking a quarterback, but it sounds like they're not necessarily sold. It could be a smokescreen. It could be a last-ditch effort to try and get Indianapolis, to tempt Indianapolis to get up to 3. But in reality, what you just heard from Schefter is that's the opposite of what it would do. Indianapolis sounds like they feel confident that they can get their guy at 4 without having to maneuver with a top 5 pick. If that was the case, then it would be even more interesting if the Titans were legitimately involved in a trade for 3rd overall, because if Houston is willing to pass on CJ Stroud, it would be a really tough sell for me to envision a scenario where the Titans would be comfortable passing on a trade-up opportunity, especially if Houston passed and you had the opportunity to beat the Colts to the punch. So not just keep Houston from getting one of the top quarterbacks. Houston, if they willingly pass, let them pass, go get the quarterback, and keep the Colts from doing the exact same without maneuvering. It's a fascinating scenario to kind of see play out. Now, we won't see this happen until we get into the NFL draft, right? This is a trade that is going to happen on Thursday evening. In 10 days from now when the NFL draft takes place. Only 10 days away from the NFL draft, by the way. Exciting stuff. If CJ Stroud makes it out of the top 5, it would be criminal. It would be shocking. I don't think that's going to happen. I almost have to envision a scenario. I still think at least 3 quarterbacks go in the top 5 picks, but to hear Adam Schefter that definitive about not having a quarterback go at 2 to Houston really throws a big old wrench in the middle of that discussion. So we'll see how that plays out a little later on. Bryce Erickson says, what about Irsay's tweet? I'm sure the coach and GM want to wring his neck. Yeah, Jim Irsay, and I'll pull the tweet up specifically so I can read it to you. It was pretty funny to see him thirst-trapping Colts fans over the weekend. Jim Irsay, who is known to be active on social media, tweeted yesterday, for the 23 draft, we have many options. With the number 4 pick, we could stay put. Oh, there it is, as a matter of fact. We could stay put and take a quarterback, or trade up and take a quarterback, or trade down and maybe take a quarterback, or not. Smiley face emoji. All options on the table, but we like our position and are very excited. Fire up with a football emoji and 4, some in focus, some super grainy pictures of the top 4 quarterback prospects: Richardson, Stroud, Young, and Levis. So, with that being said, I've never been more interested in a draft, I think, because of the implications on the division for the team that I cover. And this has the potential to become an unholy mess. And frankly, I'm here for it once we get to Thursday night. All right, let's move on here on the Primetime Show. And let's talk about the most underrated need on the Titans roster right now. Not the obvious wide receiver you guys have hammered over and over again, and even as they continue to sign off-ball linebackers instead of pass catchers. I know you need one. It doesn't seem like one meaningful one is coming until the NFL draft. So what's the most underrated need on the Titans roster right now? We'll talk about this together right after I remind you that the Primetime Show is presented by Superbook Sports. Download the app today. Baseball season is upon us. The NBA and NHL playoffs in full swing. Superbook always offers you the best odds boosts and promo bets to get in on the action. They always offer you a direct line to the best odds makers on the strip. The app itself, it's clean, it's easy to use. It is the best wagering app around. So don't let spring pass you by without winning money with Superbook Sports, because they'll get a $250 bonus. You will get a $250 bonus when you sign up, deposit, and wager in the same day. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line, 1-800-889-9789. So, as you look at the upcoming roster situation, or the current roster situation, where do you spot an underrated need for this team right now? Wide receiver, obvious need. Tight end, obvious need. Offensive line, obvious need. But what are we not discussing enough? Running back, says Eric Castillo. He says Hassan Haskins isn't an RB2. Well, I don't think there's here's what I'll say, Eric. In a more expanded sample size that we got of Hassan Haskins, which was the Cowboys game, the offensive line play was poor, but you saw just how hard a job Derrick Henry had last year. Once Derrick Henry wasn't the running back in the backfield, and it was Hassan Haskins trying to gut this thing out. He didn't have help. It was really, really hard, and he didn't look any kind of productive or special. Now, special is not necessarily what you expect, but you do need to have backup running back depth. They did not re-sign Dontrell Hilliard. They need a pass-catching running back as an option, because Derrick, while he did have, I think it was a career high receiving yards last year, somewhere in the neighborhood of between 400 and 500. Derrick is not an option to leave on the field for all 3 downs. He's not a true blue 3-down running back. And you need a more feasible option to give yourself that passing game option, that obvious passing situation with Dontrell Hilliard, the way that you had. You need a running back who understands route running, who understands angles, and who understands landmarks to be able to run routes efficiently. That is not something that the roster currently has. Hassan Haskins is more like a Derrick Henry backup, right? Not necessarily that complementary piece for Derrick's skill set. So I do think that running back is an underrated need, because on top of that, you need a plan for life beyond Derrick Henry at some point in the very near future, because he is on an expiring deal. Producer Robert says Henry set career highs in receptions with 33 and receiving yards just under 400, 398. Thank you, Bert. So with all this that you look at this point, where is the most underrated need on the roster? Now, they keep signing off-ball linebackers. The latest, and let me pull up the individual's name, formerly of the Arizona Cardinals, agreed to terms today with the Titans. Ben Neiman, last year for the Cardinals, played in all 17 games, had 9 starts on defense, 70 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, 1 fumble recovery. So they keep signing off-ball linebackers, right? They've got Luke Gifford. They've got Ben Neiman. They've got Azeez Al-Shaair. They've got all these different linebackers that they've brought in. But right now, there's not a true blue solution that I can see to the starting linebackers. Now, it may be Al-Shaair and Monty Rice definitively. That may be a plug-and-play situation. The former third-round pick in Monty and a guy in Alshair who's been a very, very productive player in spurts, but hasn't had a full-time role because of two players in San Francisco that he had been stuck on the depth chart behind. So maybe that's the de facto starting linebacker situation. Maybe signing these off-ball linebackers removes the Titans' need in the draft because, again, they only have 6 picks, and this is another off-ball linebacker that they've signed without addressing wide receiver, tight end, pass-catching running back, or additional offensive linemen. Who is kicking field goals, says Mr. Jones? They have is it Shudak? Caleb Shudak on the roster. He was hurt last year, so they shut him down. They will probably bring in another kicker, but it'll be Shudak or somebody else at this point for the Titans. And I think that the more that you look at this, today's signing probably takes off-ball linebacker out of the mix. Underrated, I think, is defensive line depth. I think they need to kind of hedge their bets against Danico Autry and not just assume that they're going to be able to roll through 2023 with Danico Autry being as productive a player as he's been. It's not like I doubt Danico. Danico's been such an important piece of what they've tried to accomplish the last 2 years. But again, he's getting into his mid-30s. He's somebody who already had to miss some time. He missed a ton of time during the preseason and training camp while he was dealing with knee situations, and that is not something that one imagines is going to get much better in the near future. I think defensive line depth and pass rush, even with Arden Key on the roster, penciled in as the starter alongside Harold, I still do think that they need better pass rush depth now with Bud Dupree signing with Atlanta. All right. We'll bring producer Robert in. We'll do, in case you missed it, the stories in sports this week that might not have made it to your radar. We'll welcome Robert in right after I remind you that the Primetime Show is made possible by the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage. Sell your home for more with GaryAshton.com. Get the Intel Edge so you sell your home without any showings or staging. So you find your current home while you sell your current one and look for your dream address without the stress in this red-hot Nashville real estate market. Nobody has better intel and better properties than the official real estate agent of the Nashville Predators, GaryAshton.com, for that intel edge you need to succeed. So with that, we will bring Bert in, and Bert will tell us what stories in sports that we missed this week. Hey, bud.
What's going on, bud? I know you didn't miss this because we've enjoyed talking about this back and forth since it's been going on. But something that might have got missed in the Jeffrey Simmons contract extension was his agent. We watched his agent's, I guess you would call it a hype video on Primetime a couple weeks ago saying the Titans window is unequivocally Jeff's career. We did not get an answer on that, but we
unequivocally Jeff's career.
Like, what the hell does that even mean? I still don't know. We don't have an answer on that, but we did get an answer from Big Jeff as to the type of agent that he is, which will lead me to what the question is for, in case you missed it. What is the best part of Jeffrey Simmons' extension? I'm going to say that his agent is sticking around to give us more content for the next 4 years. This is what Jeff had to say at his press conference regarding Paul.
Paul, I'm sure Rand know that Paul gonna make sure that things get done. He gonna make sure you're on the phone. And I was like, Paul, all right, man, let's stop calling me until something get done. Like I'm tired of talking like every other day. It's like Paul Dorsey calling. So I'm like, all right, Paul, do we got something? But man, just the commitment that Paul made to me and my uncle. Of course, me and my uncle started this thing called Walking Business. Of course, coming out of college, I didn't sign with an agent. That's the road I wanted to go. Just having a mentor like my uncle who played in this league 10 years, and to trust him that okay, I'm not going to steer you wrong. And we brought Paul along, and Paul haven't let us down. He one of them guys who kept his word, and I appreciate you, Paul. And like I said to my uncle Jason Hatcher. It's a big mentor to me throughout this process. Just stay patient, been a big word.
We all know those people, right? That just get on the phone and call you constantly. And if that person for me is my aunt. Anytime I see my Aunt Donna calling me, I'm gonna go ahead and hit decline real quick, send her one of those automated text messages. It's like, I can't talk right now, because if I get on the phone with her, I'm gonna be on the phone for 25 minutes. It seems like, and I will not call him his full name. I refuse to, because he is doing his victory lap right now, and he changed his Twitter name, Buck. I can't do it anymore. I can't call him Paul De Rosilli, whatever his last name is. Now he is officially Payday P to me. That's the only thing I will call him in. And so after the contract extension got done, he was doing a mini victory lap, going around to radio stations. He was on Blaine and Mickey. I believe he was on 102.5, which is the next tweet I'm going to show you.
Okay.
He might be a guy that talks a little bit too much, which isn't great for NFL teams, but it's great for us. I
Sure.
love hearing all the details, the gory, dirty things that happened. And this was one of the quotes he had in an interview. This is from Nick Kaiser. Nick Kaiser tweeted out, just had Payday P, in fact, on 102.5 The Game. And he said, when negotiating Jeffrey Simmons' deal, quote, I told Rand 3 years, but he said, hell nah. And I know that's exactly how that dude said it too. So which he quote tweeted this and said, this was Rand's face when I said it. So notice in the top, the Payday P. That's the only thing you're going to refer to him as. Not only did this guy talk to Rand Carthon and say, how about a 3-year deal? And to which Rand said, hell no. He grabbed a screenshot in the FaceTime, and not just for his own use, his own bank, right? This was so he could put it out on social media to let people know he does, in fact, FaceTime Rand Carthon. For that, I am grateful for the contract extension, and I'm grateful that Payday P is going to be around for the long haul.
It doesn't sound like you're grateful. It sounds like you're sick of his shit.
No, I love it. I want more hype videos now. If you follow him on Twitter, he has been doing the largest victory lap known to man.
Well, listen, Bert, I will give this man the benefit of the doubt. It's a legit payday. It's his first legit
payday.
It is a Payday P payday. That's gonna. It's somebody. We're gonna get fined now for saying that, because I'm sure it's been trademarked by Payday P himself. But listen, a part of me agrees with you with the excess. If you're an NFL organization, you have to despise this. Notice that he's not sharing screenshots of Mike Vrabel FaceTimes, because I know that Mike FaceTimes, and I'm certain that Paul D. Russell probably FaceTimed Mike Vrabel at some point in this. And I can't imagine a scenario where Mike Vrabel gets a screen. The only time that's ever happened to Mike Vrabel is me, Bert, because I accidentally put him in a group text one time with Lucas and Greg Cosell trying to get to the morning show, and then he threatened to skin me alive like an animal in ways that we talked about on the radio show in one of Mike's recent radio show appearances. So yes, careful who you accidentally put in group texts, and be even more careful if you FaceTime Jeff Simmons' agent Paul D. Russell, because he's a screenshot grabbing MFer out here in these streets, and he's keeping a receipt, whether you're GM, player, owner, or whoever the hell else he's tweeting on Twitter. But listen, good for him getting a payday, getting his client a payday. It's got to feel great. It seems like it's the first experience at this level for him. And if I cashed in that way, it would be difficult for me not to take a payday or a Payday P lap in everybody's face too.
I'd have you blocked. I would not deal with it. And on my way out, I'll let you know that Payday P, his career is unequivocally the window. I said that wrong. Finish the show. Wrap it up.
And I was ready, getting ready for you to say, and I stand on that. And then you blew the landing.
And I stand on that.
I stand on that in case you missed it, this week is always fun, always enjoyable. So we appreciate producer Bert and his great work. For more producer Bert and all of his high quality production efforts, radio show from 10 to 1 tomorrow on 104.5 The Zone. We will be talking about the AFC South more. We'll have more information for you on what Schefter talked about here this evening. We will also be keeping an eye on things over at St. Thomas Sports Park, because the pre-draft press conference with Rand Carthon and Mike Vrabel will come your way on Thursday. And of course, we will be doing Great reporting that as well. I'm excited for the draft. I love it. It's like, I don't know how many of you guys, when you were in grade school or middle school, you did those, lock-ins, school lock-ins, whether it was on a weekend with your entire class or something like that. I went to a private Catholic school, so they did like anti-drug and alcohol lock-ins where, they kept you overnight at a school for, like, they rented out the YMCA or something like that. And you did, like, stayed up all night. You did skits, all these kind of things. That's basically what the NFL draft is with all my Titans media contention. We're locked in the draft in the Titans facility for 4 days, like a middle school lock-in with nothing but old hands.
Hold on. They used to lock you in and tell you not to do drugs or drink. I feel like that's the best times to drink if you're locked in somewhere. They're just like aiding you. They're like, oh, the best time to do drink and do drugs is right now that you're locked in this YMCA gymnasium.
Yes, and there's always a water bottle that finds its way into the confines of the lock-in. But that is for another day. Back to the shadows, goddamn.
Whoa, hang on.
He couldn't even do it right. He can emerge from the shadows as he wants, but it's tougher to send him away on the streaming show. So we'll have to do it on the radio show. Have a great rest of your evening, and I will talk to you tomorrow at 10 a.m. on 104.5 The Zone.
Are you surprised to hear that?
Certainly not. The first year we took it to the limit. And I was in Miami with my new beach house. Well, it was a couple minutes from the beach.
It's been 20 years since then. We haven't been too strong in the last few years.
Oh, we've been strong. We're just playing by the rules. You can't have a newcomer come in and steal a show.